Hello, I'm the Bunny Man.
And I'm Crazy Susie.
And we are in the Eyes of Terror and parental advertisement.
Parental warning?
There we go. Parental warning.
Advised.
Whatever.
You look like a wizard.
I'm a hairy wizard. I'm a wizard, Harry. Anyway, we talk about the boobs, booze, and murder. So, children are advised not to listen.
You sound like a dopey dragon.
You pity pity. I don't know what this is all about, to be honest.
Me either.
Good, that makes us both understand. Alright, back to the stuff. We are reviewing Mercy Christmas, 2007. Yes.
There is an obscenely large amount of bad horror films that are related to the Yuletide season.
Yep. Because the Yuletide season can be very stressful, and it's nice to let out all that murdery intention. Remember, 'tis the season to be carrying a shield, a baseball bat, and a cheer in your heart.
What about the axe?
Axes usually require two hands. You have to plow through the crowd. So you want something that you can have the shield with so you can plow through. And then have something that you can bash the heads of.
They have small axes.
Okay, you could do like a small axe. If that's where you
could have a utility belt with multiple weapons.
Yeah.
Gotta be a resourceful killer.
Yeah. Yeah. But blunt objects... The good thing about the baseball bat is that it's an all-around. It's an ombi.
No, you could turn the axe around and use the back end to blunt force trauma people. You gotta use your noodle.
Yeah. Use the noodle to hurt the noodle.
Use your brains.
To spill the brains.
Linda's like, use your brains to give me a cookie.
Okay, so what are you drinking?
I'm drinking the good American classic Cherry Dr. Pepper.
Yep. And what am I drinking? I am drinking Honky Tonk Sour Cherry Ale. It's a Cherry Berliner Weiss. Is brewed and canned in Honky Tonk Brewing Company in Nashville, Tennessee.
Honky Tonk.
But Donky Donk.
No. No. We like to keep people listening to us, so no.
But every time somebody says honky tonk, I always think of Donky Donks.
No.
Okay. The back says is our sour cherry ale blends an abundance of tart Montmorency, Michigan cherry juice with a pleasant sour Berliner Weiss beer. From their blossoms to their fruits, cherry trees represent a circle of life that is short and sweet, and in this case, tart. The fruit is ripe. Enjoy it now. HonkyTonkBeer.com. It is a independent brewing company. It's 5% alcohol by volume, 12 fluid ounces. It comes in a can, and of course it has Tennessee orange.
Cherries. And cherry blossom tree.
Yeah, like a hand-drawn, illustrated cherry blossom tree. Government warning. And let's open her up. The other night I had some Bird Dog whiskey, chocolate whiskey. It was actually really good, smooth.
Yes, it was mine.
You can't drink it though.
I get nothing.
Or you die. You die if you drink.
I get death.
Put down the cookie now.
I can eat cookies.
Yeah. Put down the booze now. It's not a bad cherry. Honestly, it's not that tart. It's like it's a mild tart, and it's not very cherry-y. So it's a light cherry, and the Weiss really does help. Even in all that, it's not a bad sour. It's not like, oh, a sour beer. Like a lot of sours are. A lot of sours are just sour. This one is actually on the mild side of sour. It's enjoyable. You want to sniffer it?
Yeah, the cherry's on the back end of it.
Mm-hmm. So the one drawback of this beer, I have to say, is that it's very fermented. So
it's ale-y.
No, it's just it has a lot of head to it, and
well, it's an ale.
Yeah, but I guess it's
the
yeasty.
sourness of the cherry kind of accentuates that.
No, it's not that. It's just I can still taste the foam. Like, the foam still is in my mouth. So that's sort of a drawback because I don't like that foamy taste or that foamy feel. That film.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to the movie. It's Mercy Christmas 2017. We found this movie on Prime.
It's also on Tubi.
It's also on Tubi. And it's 1 hour and 23 minutes.
It is listed as an action, comedy, and horror film.
Not a horror film?
Horror.
Because obviously I can't say horror without going horror.
It is not a horror. It is a horror film.
At least we established that.
IMDb gives it a 4.8 out of 10. The director of this film is Ryan Nielsen. The writers are Beth Levy Nielsen and Ryan Nielsen. Not sure why she gets the pleasure of having two last names, but anyway.
Because she
It's not even hyphenated.
How dare her?
Isn't that the appropriate way of doing it?
Yeah. Maybe that's her middle name.
Who does that?
Fancy people.
The cast is Cole Gleason, plays Andy Robillard. Whitney Nielsen plays Katherine. David Ruprecht, I'm sure I screwed that up, plays Abe Robillard. Casey O'Keefe plays Cindy Robillard. Gwen Van Dam plays Granny. Rhonda Pell plays a caroler. Forrest Hollister plays another caroler. DJ Hale plays Eddie. Dakota Shephard plays Denise. Steve Hubbell plays Michael Briskett. Danny Haberman plays Candace. Ryan Boyd plays Bart. That was probably too many. But anyway, the rest can be found on imdb.com.
You don't say.
Yes. Yes.
Yes?
And the storyline is, when Michael meets his perfect woman, his ideal Christmas comes true. When she invites him to her family holiday celebration. Dreams shatter. Michael struggles to survive once he realizes he will be Christmas dinner. This movie gets 2 awards and 6 nominations. You can find that information also on imdb.com. Because you know, I wrote a crap ton of notes, and you're going to get all those juicy details, and we don't have time for the awards. So anyway, we'll get to it.
So we open up with a carol of bells and some lovely blood splatter and a rather portly guy screaming for help. Then we are in an office where the portly man doing some work and just like shoving his face full of Christmas cookies.
Because you know, when you gotta cram numbers, Christmas cookies is the energy you need.
Yep. And he's also wearing a Christmas sweater.
Is it a sweater or a sweater vest?
He
has both, so in this scene I can't remember.
I think it's a sweater vest. It doesn't matter. So, Mr. Rollard, the boss of...
It's Robillard.
It sounds like you say Rollard the entire time.
The name is spelled quite strange and...
But they sound like they're saying Rollard all the time.
Robillard.
Well, anyway, we see that the portly man is Michael Briskett, and Mr. Robillard stops in and tells him to basically he needs to crunch numbers over the holidays because Christmas.
First, he compliments him on his work ethic
and his name.
You liked work. Oh, that was later.
Yeah.
Okay. And gives him more work to have done by Christmas. He says, Michael Briskett, I'll never forget that name because it's my favorite cut of meat.
Yes. Foreshadowing. Okay. Update on the sour. It's starting to get more sour as you drink like about half of the can. It's like a stack sour.
I figured as much.
Yeah. Okay. Again, phone. Of course, what Mr. Robillard is telling him to do is a major report. It's due by Christmas, and obviously Michael is not pleased about it because who would be? Next, we are at a bar, and there's a bartender and a Patreon. The Patreon makes a joke about...
you mean the patron?
The Patreon.
Patron.
Yeah.
Patron. It's not Patreon.
Which we do have.
It's patron. Patron.
The patron makes a joke about which reindeer has the worst manners, and it's Rudolph.
Rudolph, yeah.
Katherine isn't in the Christmas spirit, who is the bartender. She's just not in the Christmas spirit. The patron is about to get sick. Katherine tries to rush her to the loo, and then the patron is killed. Kill number 1 gets stabbed in the chest with a pocket knife. I give this a 3 out of 5. This kill gets the party started, and then Katherine gets choked out. So not even like, I would say 10 minutes into the film, we got our first kill.
Yep, they kill her and take the bar owner.
Next, we are at a wheelchair-bound man asleep in his house when someone comes up and grabs him, making him drop his jello, and we see him getting dragged out into the street.
The man is on oxygen.
Yes.
He's an old man.
And then next we see a ticket scalper selling his wares with no avail. He starts walking to his car when he hears a voice asking if he still has any tickets left.
He's hustling.
Yep. As the scalper turns around, he gets clocked in the head with a bottle, which knocks him out. Next, we see Michael asleep at his desk when an attractive woman carrying binders of paper, and we're talking massive binders of paper.
Yeah, like 6-inch ring binders, just bloated full.
Yeah. Carrying binders of paper, she introduces herself as Cindy, Mr. Robillard's assistant.
Robillard's.
Whatever. And she puts it on his. She puts him on his desk and comments, "It's a lot of work," and tells him Merry Christmas. Next, we see Michael asleep in front of a TV. Oh, he also gives her he gives Mr. Robillard a card because he's doing a Christmas bash.
He mentioned his Christmas party to Mr. Robillard, and he's like, well, if you happen to be in town, swing by. And he's like, I won't. I'm going out of town.
Yeah. So we see Michael asleep in front of a TV Yule log, and his apartment is all Christmased up. And then we hear a knock on the door. Cindy shows up to the party.
She's the only one.
The party, the one-man party.
Well, there's 2 of them, so
yeah,
2.
Well, 2's a crowd. She asks if the party's over, and Michael's like, yeah, because it never started.
Aww.
She sees eggnog and invites herself in because, eggnog is everybody's favorite holiday drink. And then, where am I? She asks herself...
They drink eggnog and talk about their families. He just has his mom, and she goes on a cruise for the holiday.
Yes. And then she gives him some information about hers, and then they exchange gifts because Cindy wants to do a not-so-secret Secret Santa. Michael gives her a power cord, and she gives him some of her mom's special cookie dough. After that, she leaves. Michael laments about Cindy. Cindy turns around, knocks back on the door, and invites Michael to dinner because she hates the idea of a guy like him not making it to a table.
Not making it to a Christmas table.
Yeah. And the family would love to have him. The next day, Christmas Eve, Michael is waiting to get picked up. Michael goes through the names of her family. Then they drive to the house singing the most annoying song, 12 Days of Xmas. Or 12 Days of Christmas. Mm. That is... It's like the worst version.
It's like a Christmas version of 29 Bottles of Beer.
That's what I was going to say, yeah. Sydney and Michael show up. Greetings happen. And...
This man must have the most Christmas outfits of any man ever.
Yeah.
Every scene, he's wearing a different Christmas sweater or sweater vest. He's a festive guy.
They show up.
Before they go in, he asked her again to make sure he's not imposing on her family. He remembers her family's name. He thinks and remembers her family's names to try to make sure, he has everybody straight. They get to the house. Everyone greets Cindy. Even her unwanted boyfriend, Phillip, is there.
Yeah.
I mean, Phillip thinks that he used to be her boyfriend, but according to Cindy, that never happened. So.
Well, he assumes a lot of things. Like, he's intelligent and not annoying as heck.
She introduces Michael and says she brought him for dinner. After lunch, Abe, Cindy's dad, offers Michael eggnog, which...
Well, you remember, they had ribs.
Oh, yeah, they had ribs for dinner.
Lunch.
Yeah.
Which is Michael's favorite. Mm-hmm. And we see him devour many ribs.
And so Abe offers him eggnog, which, he said, well, I heard you like eggnog, blah, blah, blah. He drinks a portion of it, and then his boss comes in, says, hey, I see you're enjoying my family, Briskett. And then all of a sudden, Briskett goes down.
And up to this point, Michael believes that this is the perfect family.
Yep. Cindy genuinely liked him, wanted to introduce him to her family, and invite him over for Christmas.
Yep. Because she felt sorry for him.
I don't even know if he thought that.
No. Next thing we know, Michael is feeling woozy and decides it's time to take a nap. He wakes up tied up into a basement. All four of the previous people that we saw getting kidnapped start screaming. Katherine tells him to shut up. A sign lights up that says Merry Christmas. And Bart comes down the stairs and drags the old man into a plastic curtained room. Next, Mr. Robillard, whatever.
Robillard.
Takes Michael upstairs, tells him he is in a dilemma, that Michael is part of dinner, but he needs the report done now.
He has work to do.
So Mr. Robillard helps Michael to get motivated.
Yeah, gives him a pep talk and motivation, as he calls it,
by devising an electric shock motivator. So he basically strips the wires of some Christmas lights.
Yeah.
And then he uses the power surger that he gave Sydney earlier
as a flips it on and off to shock him.
So
it's pretty nice.
Yeah.
So Granny decides everyone was going to church, so they, put Briskett back downstairs and off they went to church.
And then, but at that time, Sydney at this time gets upset at Granny because she's wearing fur because it's humane.
It's inhumane.
Yeah, inhumane. And then there's also blood on the white tablecloth.
There's a spot of blood and she has a conniption fit.
Yeah. She also looks like a whore.
She's dressed very scantily to be going to a church service.
Yeah. As they go to church, Michael is back in the basement. He starts screaming. Everybody tells him to shut up. There's a sort of introductions on how they got there. They ask Michael what's upstairs. We find out none of them have any friends. They ask if, like, is there windows, is there doors, if we could get out of here, can we escape?
Yeah. And they were like, whoa, isn't somebody going to be expecting you? Wouldn't somebody come looking for you? And they realized that none of them have anybody that would be looking for them, that would be expecting them. So there's that.
Which is really sad if you think about it.
They talk about escaping, and then they hear them return. The Christmas light sign lights up again. Bart and Abe both come down this time. They were talking about the game, and Abe said he used this trick when Bart's mother was alive. One guy, the ticket guy?
This is the ticket scalper.
What was his name?
Eddie,
he looked at Abe and said something very inappropriate, but at the time, yeah, I bet she was the B word, so he gets taken, obviously, and they take him to a metal table, and they chop his legs off.
because they're having legs for dinner.
Yes. And they cauterize the wound with a hot iron.
At least he cauterizes the wound.
A clothing iron.
Yeah. Well, at least it was nice of them to do that.
There was loads more to eat, so they had to keep him alive. Briskett gets taken back up for work time. He opens up to Michael, and Granny is harping about doing the stockings. Phillip is blabbering on about some quote
All he does is
18th time.
Yeah.
And everyone gets ready to do the stocking tradition.
All he does is just quote literature, like classic literature.
So Abe, the dad, has the camera at the ready, to photo everybody with their stocking and doing the whole tradition thing. Granny says Cindy is first. She gets her stocking, but notices there's a, arid string hanging out. So Cindy gets the scissors to cut the string so everything's, picture perfect. And Granny asked her if she picked a dessert yet. She says she'll get behind and shouldn't leave the family hungry. Phillip chimes in with yet another quote. Cindy snaps, and she stabs him multiple times with the shears in her hand. I've been waiting for this to happen the entire film.
Yeah.
Ever since I first met Phillip.
Yes.
We're like, yes, somebody killed him.
Yeah.
Bye, Phillip.
How was he not eaten prior? We do not know.
And then they're looking at Phillip as Cindy is covered in his blood, still holding the scissors. They look at him and they're like, wow, we can make a mincemeat pie with him. I think that would be nice.
Oh, I did forget to give the rating. So Phillip gets cut from the family. I give this a 4 out of 5 because Phillip is annoying. And his quote didn't make any sense. It was about something about octopuses and family.
I didn't know octopi were familiar.
No, it was something like we all have different, like, everybody's a different tentacle of an octopi, but we're all part of the same species. It was a weird quote that
makes no sense. But
was supposed to be something deep.
There ends up being someone at the door, and Michael attempts to get their attention to try to get some help.
Yeah, he was crawling on the floor, wasn't he? Yeah.
On his back. He was like scooting on the floor on his back. And they're like,
what is he doing?
It's a police. It is the police.
Dispatcher.
Well, you find out that later. Which freaks out Andy, but she ends up being Bart's girlfriend. And you find out that she's not actually a police officer, she's just a dispatcher, So there's that. Michael's taken back downstairs, and Bart shows Denise, his girlfriend, where the good cuts of meat are located on a person.
While using Michael Briskett.
Well, he's a good-sized fella.
Mm-hmm.
Bart asked Denise if she would like to witness some carving. She says she will go and see if Cindy needs help. And
at this time, Katherine bites Bart's ankle, because he's kneeling down, as he's telling Denise saw the spots, and Bart's girlfriend just basically kicks her face in.
Yep, she would have killed her, but Bart calmed her down and said, you gotta leave the meat alive if you want to, have a nice dinner.
And then next, Dad and Mr. Rollard bring down Phillip to the butcher.
Dad is Mr. Robillard. They're all Mr. Robillard. Abe is the father.
Yeah.
And the eldest son is Andy.
Okay. So they bring down Phillip. And
they're yelling and arguing the whole time that they're chopping off Phillip's buttocks, because I guess that's the part that Dad tells them where the mincemeat is.
Which mincemeat doesn't really have meat in it.
He looked in a book and said that mincemeat comes from the hindquarters, like the back end, implying that it comes from the, nether region.
But then he said colon, but they cut off the
actual buttocks.
The butt cheek. Yeah, it was confusing. That whole sort of.
So as they're arguing amongst themselves and everything, Eddie starts moving around, and they realize he's still alive, and so they tie his hands up, and then he starts scooting away. So Abe goes to strangle him, and Bart reminds him, you need to keep him alive for Granny's Rocky Mountain oysters. Can't forget those specialties at the holidays. So dinner is being finished, and the girl downstairs tells Michael not to give Andy the satisfaction of finishing the work. Dinner is served. Bart is asked to cut the meat. Andy insists Denise is served first, since she is new to the table. Well, she ends up loving the meat. Cindy offers to give her the recipe. Katherine, the girl downstairs, and Michael talk about how special Christmas is. He thinks it is, and she does not agree.
Well, she sort of has this hard line. Michael's a hopeless romantic about everything. He idolizes Christmas, and then
he romanticizes it.
And then Katherine is more like, it's just another crappy holiday I have to work, and and now my best friend, my only friend, is now dead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she realizes that she upsets him, so she tells him a joke. The whole, which reindeer has the worst manners? Rudolph.
Mm-hmm.
Bart announces at the end of dinner that he and Denise are getting married. Andy is the only one who seems to be unhappy about this news. Pop, or Abe takes him aside and tries to talk to him and, just basically let him know, hey, there's a transition period. Your mother was new at one point and everybody accepted her with open arms, and I would like to see grandchildren, so you need to calm down. Bart asks if Andy and Pop wants to celebrate with a cigar. Andy crumbles his. Andy goes down and gives Briskett a pep talk to get him to finish his work. He has to choke Katherine in order to motivate him to finish. At bedtime, Abe prays to his wife. He is so thrilled to have all of his kids home for the holidays.
Under one roof.
Under the same roof. And that Cindy helped Andy bring his work home. And Bart has a girlfriend. Michael is asleep and dreams about
dismembered fingers.
About Pam coming into his office and telling him how she didn't get invited to the office party and she got a pink slip. Funny, she calls him Matt. He wakes up and finds his legless friend still alive. His female cellmate begs him to leave and find help. Because they were all going to leave, but she's kind of bolted to the floor. So he straps the legless Eddie to his back with Christmas lights and arms the little warrior with what?
The iron.
The iron. Yes, he does. And he is pumped up for a fight. He's like, hoo, let's do this. He's the person you want on your side when you got to fight, because that dude is...
Well, he has nothing to live for. They took his legs. My legs! They took my squeezing legs!
No, I think you're supposed to say, took my... You don't want me to say things like that.
They took my squeezing legs!
Denise wakes to leave. Cindy gets up to fix Christmas dinner, well, to get started on the preparation for it, and offers to make coffee. Denise goes to get ready for work, and Cindy goes to wake Granny because, hey, she needs some help. It's a lot of work. So, the guys manage to get upstairs. They have to hide a few times, wait for the right moment to escape the house. But they do.
Everybody's except for Granny. Well, Granny sort of just gets up and mulls around. It's just Denise and Cindy. But we see that Alex is snoring with a knife in his hand and an empty eggnog cup. So we can assume that he got sloshed as he was torturing Briskett, because during the night he was also making sure that he was getting done, and he was using his contraption as carolers were singing outside. I actually really like that sort of scene, because it's like no one knows the crap that's going on in this house. Yeah, and it looks all innocent and sweet with the lights going on and off in the background. Yeah, and we don't know that there's a guy actually being tortured.
Yeah, it's interesting. They hide in Denise's car. She gets inside and gets a call. It's Bart. Just saying, Merry Christmas. I love you.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Well, she hangs up and the waist-high warrior beats her to death in the face and her phone until Michael has had enough of it and moves so he can no longer reach her to inflict his pain.
Because Michael at this time is still feeling sorry for almost the family. Like,
yeah, he still has this... He still kindly idolizes them and thinks that, this can't be real. I'm missing something here, so...
It was just all an innocent mistake type bull.
They get out of the car and, look at the whole situation, and Eddie's like, we need to go. They're going to see us through the window. And Michael's like, no. I got to go back. I got to go back and get Katherine. But Michael grabs a shepherd's hook on the way in for a weapon.
The lamest of all weapons.
The first person they come in contact with is Granny. Eddie smashes her face. And after he tells her, sorry, Michael hits her. Yeah. Next, it's Dad, or Abe. After he knocks over the tree onto himself, Abe does, Michael gives him many whacks about the face. Again and again, saying sorry after each one. Then says, sorry, I'm not sorry.
And then Eddie's like, use the heat.
You're not sorry, not sorry. Cindy, Bart, and Andy come into the room with Katherine. And Andy tells Michael they have... What? And Andy tells Michael they have work. Eddie holds up Denise's phone and says, does this look familiar? Everyone says they want to kill you. And the fight begins. Cindy has her shirt off due to spilling eggnog on it. So...
We get a half boob rating. But they look pretty good. They look pretty good.
So, yeah. Haha. And Katherine takes this as an advantage for a titty twister. The whole titty. The whole dang titty. She just grabs a honking handful.
And just twists.
Yeah, she just grabs a whole handful. In the end, Cindy gets killed by suffocation of flour and gets whacked on the head, the back of the head with a rolling pin.
I think that was probably the worst way to... I mean, all of them are...
But it was the most, I guess, unique.
Yeah. Well, she was up, but at this time, too, it wasn't just like she ducked her head into and then whacked her head over. At this time, they were fighting, and Sydney tried to put Katherine's hand into the garbage disposal and trying to turn that on. So it was this fight of, like, lose hand, get away from the switch.
Yeah, and it was really back and forth like girl fighting. And Bart gets stabbed in the chest. Andy gets electrocuted by his Christmas lights and doused in eggnog, so he catches on fire. Eddie gets stabbed in the back. Michael takes Katherine outside on the stoop, and carolers come.
Well, and then at that time, Michael looks up and he was like, I'm waiting for a white Christmas. And they're like, this is Southern LA. This is like Southern California. We live in LA.
Katherine's like, that's not gonna happen.
He's like, shh.
He's like,
just let me dream.
I can dream. And she's like, this is Southern California. It's not gonna happen.
But then she goes, okay, I'll let you, like, it may be a white Christmas. Because she realizes they just been through a lot.
You can give him this one thing, And then she's like, oh, okay, well, maybe. So they're sitting there in each other's arms, bloodied, beat up, exhausted, in front of the house. And here comes the carolers along, about ready to sing to them. And they're like, call 911. The carolers call 911, and they say, there's been something, I don't know what, but 2 people are bleeding all over the place.
And then we hear sirens, and after a few seconds into the credits, we see that Eddie is still alive. Eddie is... He's a fighter. So
it ends with, we wish you a Merry Christmas playing.
Mm-hmm. So we did miss a few ratings, so we'll go back into that. The girl on girl thing, I like that one. That was a 4 out of 5, just because of the uniqueness of it. And I think, like I said, it would be a horrible way to go with a lung full of flour. Like the suffocation.
Yeah, because she, like, dug her face into it.
Yeah, and then held it there. So, and flour, if you get a lot of flour in your system, it does weird things. So, that was pretty gnarly. Katherine stabbing Bart in the chest is a 3 out of 5. Just, I mean, it's logical that would happen. And Bart was like the tank of the group. So, when Andy goes up in eggnog flame, I give that a 5 out of 5 because, let's be honest, that was pretty awesome. And Justice Search type thing. Using his own device of torture against him.
And the eggnog was just...
the whipping on top. You can say. So, what's your rating?
My overall rating?
Yeah.
What was your overall rating?
No, you go first.
My overall rating is a 4 out of 5. Because some character names were not given until close to the end of the film. The plot was kind of obvious, but it was fun.
I give this a 4.5 out of 5. I really was interested in this film. The action happens pretty much immediately. The setup makes sense. You feel sorry for the victims, which is really hard to sort of emote that emotion. These people are victims, and you need to feel sorry. There's a part of that. But they aren't tragic, or they're not just tragic characters. The family isn't gross. I think this is the biggest part. The family isn't some gross backwoods hillbilly.
They look like wholesome people.
Yeah, average.
Put on the air of wholesome people.
Average suburban family. the most terrifying aspect of this film is not the cannibalism and all that, is that this could happen anywhere and you wouldn't know it. These were just normal people. You would never know that they were kidnapped because they were strategic in how they kidnapped.
Right.
And really the only reason why it got out of hand how it did is because the boss brought his work home with him.
Yeah. So there was that interpersonal relationship there where he was introduced to people ahead of time, so he knew people.
Well, it wasn't even just that. It was just like...
And he kept taking him upstairs.
Yeah, that was the thing. So he knew what was sort of like going on.
He could see things that he shouldn't have been privy to.
Yeah. But this movie does make you think about having dinner at other people's houses. It sort of reminds me of like the neighbor of Jeffrey Dahmer, who was like, yeah, I went over to dinner a lot of his time, and I probably ate him. Like, she was like crying during this entire time. She wasn't like how I'm doing it, but she was like, yeah, I probably ate people I would have never known.
Yeah.
You know, it's just there's
the other white meat.
Yeah, long pig. Other than that, I mean, this movie was really good. I like it because it's not trying to be super scary.
Yeah.
And it sort of makes you
that's creepy.
And it sort of makes you feel sort of sorry just for people who are alone for the holidays. And you're just like, and that's what makes it also sort of realistic, because there are people who don't really have family or anything like that. And if they would get kidnapped, it was one like who sort of would have known. Michael's boss probably would have said something, like he had a heart attack or something. He would dismiss it because he's the boss. So, other than that, it was a good movie. I think it sets the pace for the holidays.
Yep.
And because, a big tradition of families is to eat. So.
I think so.
But one con of this movie too, was just some things like, I guess the one thing was the mincemeat pie thing that irritated me. And like pointing out one thing and then doing another thing. And also the leg thing, because we were talking about marinating the legs. Mm-hmm. But at the time frame that they were giving, there was no way to marinate the legs.
Right.
So
I think maybe they cut his legs off in the morning and they cooked him at night.
So maybe the timeline is just really weird.
It's not really defined well.
Yeah. So maybe that's where I was, because it seemed like they cut his leg off and then they just like threw him in the stove real quick.
Well, they were making a big deal about getting him in the oven, but and it could just be that they were just trying to think of quippy lines to say.
Yeah.
To put in the.
Well, and you have to admit, in this movie too, another cool thing about this movie is that there's genuine like normal conversation that people would have during a family event. Talking about the game, talking about watching the game at church.
And it's interesting that they truly view these people as food items. Like they're detached.
Yeah, completely detached. And I guess, but I mean, there's a part of me, because you can see there's just a tradition. I mean, there's a part of me that's like, I would like to see more of this type of thing. Or like, like how did it all start? And obviously they have power. This family has power enough to cover up certain things. Mm-hmm. Because if they do this every year, it's going to be becoming suspicious. After a while, you would think. But then we have...
Well, that's why they kidnap people that...
Yeah.
Could be missed.
But, I mean, we have a lot of missing people as is that go unnoticed, so, as a society. So, I guess that's saying something about our society, too, in a way. Not to go as deep as I was planning on, but, I mean, overall, it was just... It's sort of one of those, like... This movie could be a lot deeper if you look into it in a different context than just... But... Overall, this is just a fun movie for the holidays. Just to get out of that mindset of the holiday madness. So, anything else?
I think that's all.
Okay. Well, thank you for listening. This is the beginning of our Christmas season thing. I hope you enjoyed it.
We'll scare you later.
Bye.
You're like, I don't know what to say.